Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah.
Woo! And if this is your first time watching the Content Swap Podcast or listening to the Content Swap Podcast, this is a podcast in which we podcast. I said it so many times I had to make that joke. Anyway, this is a podcast where Aaliyah and I engage with a piece of content that we assign each other at the end of every episode, and then we discuss it throughout the episode. So today we're going to be discussing two pieces of content, one after the other, and then at the end we're going to assign the piece of content that we want the other to engage with for the following week. So, with that in mind, before we jump into it, what's going on? Give us your weekly update. How's life?
Life's good. Just working and crocheting. And that's about it.
Tell the audience more about your crocheting. That's a nice top you're wearing there.
A top that I made.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. It started off with a little mushroom, and then I was like, well, what else can I do? And so then I made this top, and I was like, oh, I can make clothes. Well, I made the hat first. And then I was like, well, I made the hat. Can I make clothes? I make clothes. And I'm like, I'm making clothes.
Nice.
So yeah, so now I'm down a rabbit hole of making a wardrobe. That's like completely crochet. Yeah.
Nice. And you're gonna make pants?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
You're gonna make socks?
I could make some socks. Socks seem pretty easy.
Can you make a dress?
I really want to make a dress, but if I make a dress, I want it to be like, right now I'm kind of using like the cheapy yarn because I'm just like learning, figuring out how to make things. So when I get better and when I can get when I start getting like good yarn, then I want to make dresses.
Okay. What else? What else can you make?
Literally anything. I can make bags. I can make toys. I can make whatever. I don't know if I can make it. I'm just saying the options of what you can crochet are endless. Do I know how to make those things? No. I could learn.
The options for what you can crochet are endless.
I really want to start making like home decor. Like I want to make pillows for our house. And
can you make a fridge?
No. No, I'm sure I could like make a fridge toy,
Hey, that'd be kind of cool. I'd be into it.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm in deep.
Yeah, you are. No, you're totally in deep. It's all you want to do.
It's all I can think about. I come home from work and I'm like, I can't wait to crochet.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's like probably a problem though because like I don't want to do anything else.
That's okay. It's a hobby, and hobbies are things that are meant to be taking up our free time,
Yeah, there's just not enough free time. I'm like, I need more time.
This is like when I'm playing video games. I'm like, I don't have enough time to play my video games.
Because like this week you've been like, do you want to watch our like assignment? I'm like, no. You're like, do you want to watch Survivor? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I just want to crochet. I just want
Meanwhile,
to sit there.
I've been like watching a lot more TV this week on my own.
Yeah.
Playing games still.
Yeah.
And you're just crocheting.
I know. I just sit in the bed and I put on a cartoon or I put on a bunch. Today was Seth Rogen movie day. So I just put on a bunch of Seth Rogen movies and I just been crocheting.
Even when we watched your assignment on Friday night.
I was crocheting.
You were crocheting through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like last night when we watched mine, you were not crocheting and you almost fell asleep. So.
Because the theater. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to hit the microphone like that. The theater. It's like I walk in and instantly I'm asleep. I can't control it, and I can't. No matter what time of day, we've done morning movies.
Yeah.
I fall asleep. We've done nighttime movies. I fall asleep.
I think when the morning movie is like the same thing over and over and over again, a la the Transformers animated movie, I think it's understandable. But I think if we had watched my movie that we watched last night in the morning, like I had originally suggested, I don't think you would have fallen asleep.
I don't know.
Okay, well, you need to stop resting your head on the side of something.
But that's like, it's not even, I don't like intentionally like, oh, like I'm just gonna like lay my head. It's like I'm sitting upright, and there's always like some point in the movie where I'm like,
yeah,
like I just like fall out, and I can't control it. Like yesterday, I was like, it feels like I've been drugged. Like I literally cannot keep my eye open, which is weird because then we'll like go up. It's like, okay, it's bedtime. Let's go upstairs. Let's get in bed. And then I'm like more awake.
Yeah.
It's just being in the theater. So I think if we watched like the movie out here, I think I'd stay awake.
I mean, I believe that. I'm just like, I like the theater so much.
Oh no, I love the theater. Like I want to watch the movies in there, but it's just like I might fall asleep.
That's the thing. It's like when I'm in there, I'm like, I'm wide awake. I'm like, I'm fully juiced to just absorb this whole experience that I'm about to get.
That's wild.
Because it's a theater. I'm excited because I'm not going to be able to get this experience at home.
Yeah.
So I'm like alert. I'm like taking advantage of it, you know?
Yeah.
If I fell asleep every time I watched a movie, I'd be like, well, that was a waste.
That's how I thought I would feel. But like now having access to it like constantly, I'm like, I don't want to be in there. It feels like it drains the life out of me because it's so dark and I'm like, I'm tired.
Well, that's true. It is. Yeah. It does get very dark.
Yeah.
You have to like go sit outside sometimes.
Yeah.
On the patio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which sucks because it's like, I want to be able to take advantage of it too.
But I'm interested to hear your explanation of the end of my movie because...
Oh, I don't remember it.
Well, it's your duty to let the people know what happened in the movie. So I hope you wrote some good notes.
I mean, I have a very brief summary, and that's the only thing I've written.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, do you want to... Oh, wait, what's up with you this week?
Oh, yeah, you
I'm
forgot
sorry
about me.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Not much is new with me this week. I've been spending some time in the theater watching shows. So I started watching Chernobyl this week, and I finished it yesterday. It was only 5 episodes. It's on HBO. It's about the whole nuclear disaster that happens in Russia in 1986. Most people who know about the show have already seen the show because it's extremely well rated. It's like number 4 or 5 on IMDb, just rankings wise. No, it was incredibly well made. I am shocked I waited this long to watch it, especially given how short it was. It was incredible. If you've never heard of it or you haven't seen it and you have heard of it, just do yourself a favor. Maybe actually, if you if you don't think you can stomach it because it is quite serious, maybe don't actually check it out. But if you do think you could stomach it and you're curious, definitely check it out. It's incredibly well made, and it is very eye-opening. Yeah, and on that note, I've kind of just been on like a Russia theme this week. I watched the Navalny documentary about the party opposition leader in Russia, who's like a politician that was trying to challenge Putin. And he like got poisoned by the Russian government at one point in like 2020 or 2021. It was that was a very eye-opening documentary. And then to like, I think that's what put me in the mood to be like, oh, I want to watch Chernobyl in the theater while I have the chance. Then I watched Chernobyl, and then Russia was just in the news a lot this week, more so than usual. So yeah, it was just weird kind of theming thing that happened. And that for me just kind of started from having time in the theater and saying, all right, what is something that's interesting that I've been wanting to watch? And that Navalny documentary came up on HBO, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll watch that. And then it was just HBO just put me in a Russia spiral. It was very interesting. Aside from that, I also started watching another show on HBO. On Max, my bad.
I mean, it's still HBO.
Well, yeah, but it's like it's a Max original. Like when you said, so I started watching this other show called Warrior. That is like a Max original. That's not an HBO show, you know. Like there's a branding difference there for sure. But Warrior is about this man that immigrates to America from China in the late 1800s in San Francisco. He's looking for someone. He ends up getting involved with local gangsters, and there's like a whole dispute going on between local gangs and the police, and there's just a lot of like history to it. It's very interesting. Also recommend checking it out. And there's also a lot of really well choreographed fight sequences in it as well. So it keeps the action interesting, even if the topics being covered are sometimes very interesting, and then other times they're talking about like cable car contracts and who has the rights to that. And it's like, okay, not as interesting. But for there to be like really well done fight scenes in between, it's like, okay, yeah, I can sit through this and just kind of learn a little bit. So yeah, I've been watching both of those. I'll keep watching Warrior, and then Final Fantasy 16 came out, and I'll try to keep it brief, but I'm enjoying playing it. I've been playing it all day today, and I've probably played a total of like 7 hours, which includes the 2 hours that I played a week ago playing the demo, which carried over into my progress. So yeah, no, it's just a really fun time. Big boss battles, and that's the most exciting part. And when you're not fighting bosses, it actually is a little boring. Like all the in between small interaction stuff, I am like, can we get through this stuff as quick as possible, because I am not that interested. Side quests are not at all interesting. It is like, go here, fight some people, collect some things. Like, you're not doing anything unique or challenging, and the rewards are kind of like minimal. And I've heard people who say they like beat the game having done a lot of side quests, they end up feeling like overpowered for the main quest. So I might just focus more on the main quest, because the large story is interesting, but then like the small beats in between the big moments are honestly kind of not doing it for me. But I'm still gonna finish the whole. I mean, I still think it's great as an overall package. I just wish those slower moments were not so slow. Yeah, and that's my update. Nice. I hope that wasn't too much.
No.
And I'm still playing Zelda. I think there's another 40 hours there probably. So who knows when that'll get done. And I'm 100 hours in already, for context. So I've kind of come to terms with the fact that that'll just kind of always be there for at least another month or two. It is what it is.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I've done a lot of talking. I believe we are covering my movie first. So I'll let you take over the talking.
Sounds good. So I was assigned Bloodsport, which came out in 1988. And here is the summary. So Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Frank Dux, right? That's how he pronounced it, right?
Frank Dux.
That's right. I was like, duh.
You sound so
like French.
You sound so excited to be giving this description right now.
No, I'm just saying the words. I think I'm tired.
You are tired.
Yeah. I'm just like shut down today. I don't know why. Anyway, he plays Frank. Yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme
plays Frank, who is a U.S. soldier that basically like runs away from the military to go fight in the Kumite, which is an underground martial arts competition in Hong Kong. And he's doing this to basically honor his like martial arts trainer. And so he goes to Hong Kong and is granted access to like compete in this competition. And at this competition, he's going to fight a bunch of different people who are trained in different types of fighting. So I wouldn't even say it's martial arts specific, but just all different types of fighting.
Well, martial arts would just be like, martial arts in and of itself is just like fighting techniques.
Oh, okay.
Just as a foundation.
I didn't know if like boxing and martial arts were like synonymous.
I would say that counts.
Okay. Got you. So then it is a martial arts competition.
Yeah.
But everyone has a different style of fighting. So some people are more like boxers, some people more like...
Yeah. Like you wouldn't say that like boxing is a style of kung fu, for example.
Yeah.
But martial arts, I think you could encompass all of it.
Okay, cool. Well, one of the people that he might be facing is the champion from the previous year, who is Chong Li. And he's pretty scary. He killed a man last year.
He looks at him, he's like, who's that guy? And his buddy who like knows things is like, that's Chong Li, previous winner, killed a guy last year.
Yeah. So dude's scary. So basically Jean-Claude Van Damme, who plays Frank, is at this competition and is competing in these matches with different people to like get higher and higher to hopefully go to the finale. But meanwhile, the government officials are chasing after him because they're like, we need you back at the military. Like, you're our best weapon. Or they didn't say that, but the way whatever they said made it sound like they used him as a weapon.
Yeah.
It's like, kind of, we need you.
They're like, we've spent a lot of time and money on you.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? He's a human?
Like, he's one of our best men.
Yeah. I was like, so he's treated like a weapon. Cool.
Yeah,
Good to know.
Just really weird dynamic.
I honestly didn't understand the point of that, but whatever. So anyway, basically the whole movie is just him fighting people. And then by the end, he does make his way to the finals, which is just him and Chong Li like competing against one another. And he fights him and he wins.
Well, yeah, when he's fighting him, there is like some important context here in that like Frank befriends this one guy, Ray Jackson, I think is his name, who's just like a big American dude who wears like Harley Davidson t-shirts.
And he sucks.
He does suck. Like as a character, he fully sucks. Like he's not somebody that you should really be rooting for, but him and Frank become friends. So it's like you kind of have to care about him. But he has a fight with Chong Li at one point, and Chong Li like almost kills him, and then then Ray ends up in the hospital, and Chong Li like takes Ray's Harley Davidson bandana, and Frank is like, I got to get it back for Ray. It's my best Van Damme impression. I hope you approve. But so then like when Frank and Chong Li are fighting each other, at one point, like Chong Li's got the bandana on tied around his leg, and at one point he's like losing a little bit, and he whips out this like capsule and breaks it and like throws dust or I don't know, some kind of drug powder in Frank's face, and Frank like can't see anything for the remainder of the fight. And so it's this big moment where like earlier in the movie when he was doing the training montage with Tanaka, his Shidoshi, who was training him, there was like all these training sequences where he had like blindfolds on and he like poured all the tea perfectly, and then his teacher tried to like chop him, and then he like stopped him with his hand while he was blindfolded. So it's this big moment of like, oh, that is coming to fruition of being useful, and that he can't see anything in this fight right now against Chong Li, but using his instincts as a fighter, he is able to detect him and take him down and rue the day and win and do like 3 or 4 spinning back kicks, which is honestly dope. And then win. Yeah.
That.
Sorry, I ended up taking over for you because he said they fight and they win.
Because that's what it felt like. This movie is so simple.
It's
like,
incredibly simple.
Yeah, there's really not much to it. They add extra fluff in there that really served no purpose. Like, there's a love interest. Who knows why she needed to be in there? She really didn't.
Right.
Any reason.
Right.
The government people, there was no reason for them to be in there. Like,
right.
I wish those parts were just taken out and it was just fighting like that. It's okay to just have the fighting, I think.
Well, what did you think of it overall?
I thought it was good. I mean, I liked it. Okay, let me pause.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. You sound bored and like you did not find this movie interesting at all. So I'm gonna need you to sell me on the fact that you thought it was good.
Let me take it back. I don't think this is a good movie. I did enjoy the movie.
Okay.
There we go. I enjoyed it. I liked watching all the fight scenes. Like, but that was it. Like, it's just like that was all that there was. And so it's like, I enjoyed when they were fighting. Did I need everything else? No.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not mad that it is what it is. Like, as a package, I'm not like upset about it. I'm not mad at it. I'm not like, that was bad, I don't want to watch that again. Like, if you put it on the TV, I'd be watching, you know? So
yeah,
it's like a sure.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel it. Any other before I kind of give my thoughts on it, any other thoughts that you have as far as the quality of it or whatever?
Not really. No.
Okay. I mean, I agree with everything that you said. Like, I get it. Like, those parts are certainly not great, but the fact that, like, it's so 80s and, like, low budget feeling, I think just, like, in those kind of, I guess, needless parts, for me, like, really make it. Like, yeah, it's this martial arts, like, tournament movie, which is awesome, and it's, like, brutal, and like you can kill a guy in the tournament, yada yada. And Jean-Claude Van Damme is doing the splits a total of 7 times. Wrote down. Like, he's doing the splits, he's doing spinning back kicks. Like, yeah, and some of the fights are clearly like they are not making contact at all because that would be dangerous.
I will say, I don't mean to cut you off. The one thing that I did not like about this movie is anytime Jean-Claude is fighting someone, like, it is such an easy fight. Like, it's like that, his opponent is not doing anything. And then Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, does, like, one move. And then they're like, oh, we're knocked out. And I was like, okay, all the other duos that we're seeing, they're, like, it looks
they're
like
having
they're
a legit
fighting.
Fight, yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, it's very anticlimactic every time we get to him fighting. And I'm like, okay, he's supposed to be this great person. And it's like, that wasn't even a true fight. So.
Yeah, I mean, he is the talent, you know.
I was like, they could have done a little more.
Like, if he gets hurt, they have no movie. It's kind of like the military in the movie. They're like, if he gets hurt, we don't have a soldier.
I mean, it's not like they're really fighting. They're like play fight, stunt coordinator. That's their job. For
sure. I did read that, like, one of the guys that he has a fight scene with is like a very well-known, like, stuntman, fight choreographer guy, or just he's a very well-known fighter. And he had to, like, tone down his talent in order to make Jean-Claude Van Damme look better.
So basically, they hired the wrong man for this movie.
Which guy?
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Clearly, he was miscast.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I just think this movie's fun. Like, it's so, it's like, throw in a needless romance and throw in the whole, like, the army's like, you're our best man. We can't have you getting hurt out there. Like, it's just fun. It's stupid, but, like, there's something lovably stupid about it, you know?
Do you, like, how did Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, become a person in Hollywood?
Become a person?
Like, what's his story of how he like made his career?
I can't say I, like, read up a lot on this, but based on the facts that I have right now, I would say that, like, he was like a karate and kickboxing world champion in his own right. This has been verified. And that'll come back later. I'm gonna get to that. But that's been verified. Like, he was like a legitimate champion in martial arts. And I guess he was just like a good-looking guy. And he could do like crazy kicks and stuff. They were like, "Yo, you gotta get into Hollywood." This wasn't his first movie, but this was his first, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme is now a thing movie. Like, now he's more popular in the West movie. And then he made a bunch of movies after this, and which were all kind of like, you know, action movies with fight scenes. And he made another movie a year later called Kickboxer, which is basically another a secret fighting tournament movie, but with kickboxing, where he has to do like Muay Thai instead of like his like ninja training in this movie. And then he does another movie later on called The Quest in like 96, which is about like finding this secret tournament in Tibet in the Lost City, but like I think also stealing this like golden dragon thing, which whoever wins that tournament is supposed to win. Anyway, point being, this man this man has done a lot of like fighting tournament movies.
Yeah, that makes sense. The first time I ever heard of Jean-Claude Van Damme was I used to watch a show that was on Netflix. It was a Netflix original called Sense8, and it was a phenomenal show, and they canceled it, and I'm really upset about it. And I think I
remember that show.
Yeah, a lot of people were upset. I think they ended up like, after they canceled it, they made like a special or something like that, and then they were like, but we're not coming out with any more seasons.
Got it.
But one of the characters on the show was obsessed with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and like I think he drove a bus that had like Jean-Claude's like face all over it, and he like
I love that.
Was so obsessed with he wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I was like, who the heck is that, a real person? Like I thought it was like a made up character for the show.
Yeah.
And then like I realized it was a real person, but I never like thought about him again.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me because Sense8 was made by the Wachowskis, and they made The Matrix, and they were inspired by anime and martial arts movies, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was making a lot of martial arts movies, so they definitely knew who he was.
They should bring that show back. It was
Sense8.
So good. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
Oh, maybe I should assign it.
Jean-Claude Van Damme did a Prime Video TV show called Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
What?
Where he's like a secret agent.
What?
Which now that I'm realizing kind of reminds me of Bloodsport in a way, because he's like this weapon for the military or whatever. But yeah, it's like he plays a fictional version of himself called like Jean-Claude Van Johnson, and it's like a comedy.
Yeah.
And I watched the pilot for it, and I remember thinking like, oh, this is fun, because that was at a time when Prime Video, they did like 5 different pilots for 5 different shows, and then everybody had to like watch them and vote which things they wanted to be made into real series.
Oh, interesting.
And they said they were only going to do it for 1.
Yeah.
And one of the other 5 was The Tick, which that was like the clear runner. And so the Tick ended up getting a show, but then they ended up making a Jean-Claude Van Johnson show as well. But I never ended up watching it. So I've only seen that pilot. But it was interesting. Now I'm kind of like, after watching this, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to check that out. Because he's, like, I was looking at his filmography, and there's a lot of bad movies. Like, he's got some stinkers. And then for them to, like, make that show, it's like, oh, okay, like, all right, that could be fun. Something maybe of quality. Cool. Because nothing else he does is really of much quality. I would say this is probably his best movie, honestly.
Wow. That's a low bar.
Oh, yeah, I know. He said that this is one of his favorite movies as well. Okay, I have so many facts that I want to dive into on this movie because it is wild. Oh goodness. Okay, before I get into like the more wild stuff, I'll start simple. Okay, so this is a fighting tournament movie. They can fight to the death. So this actually inspired Mortal Kombat, like the video game. When they made Mortal Kombat, they were like, we basically just wanted to make Bloodsport, but just like more intense, more violent. And they made the video game. And there is a character in Mortal Kombat named Johnny Cage, his character is a martial arts movie star who is also like participating in the Mortal Kombat fighting tournament. And it's completely inspired by Van Damme to the point where the new Mortal Kombat game that's coming out in September, it's called Mortal Kombat 1. Van Damme is going to be doing the voice for Johnny Cage, which is like the first time that's ever happened. Which is like, that's fun.
That's cute.
I was like playing as Johnny Cage in those games. And in this movie, actually, there is a fight scene between Van Damme's character, Frank Dukes, and a sumo wrestler. And at one point in that fight, it ends with Frank doing the splits and then punching this guy in the crotch. And the guy's like, and he does it so seamlessly, like from standing to then like splits, boom, crotch punch. And that's one of Johnny Cage's moves in the Mortal Kombat games. It was a lot of fun.
That's cute.
All right. So, yeah, and Van Damme, as I mentioned, does the splits 7 times in this movie. And there's a scene in this movie where he does what is known as the dim mak, which is like, because he tells everybody that like Tanaka was his shidoshi, they're like, oh, well, if you trained under that guy, then you must know how to do the dim mak. So he like does this fancy move where he like basically hits a pile of bricks and the bottom brick explodes and it's like, ooh, death touch. Like that's big deal. So the dim mak is like a completely made up fictional move. It's like from like Chinese wuxia novels. It's just known as this like fictional move. I think it's in like Kill Bill as well, where it's like you hit somebody like at their pressure points and then they'll like just die basically, or just their spleen will rupture or something. So he does that in this movie, and that's totally a fictional thing. And supposedly this movie has the most montages of any movie ever at the time it was released.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, tons of montages.
There were so many. There was a scene where it was just a constant flashback to the point where I forgot he was in the military.
Yeah,
like the government was after him, and I'm like, who are these people? Why are they after him? And you were like, because he like ran away from the army. I was like, oh yeah, we were in that flashback for so long. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like it opens with like telling the viewer what the kumite is, and then that he's in the army and that he's going to go to the kumite, and then he visits his teacher, and then he just reflects on his whole past,
his whole life
for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to him no longer reflecting anymore. It's like his whole training, everything. And then he goes to the kumite, and it's just the kumite for the rest of the movie, and then he wins, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those scenes though of like young Frank Dukes.
It's so silly.
Because Jean-Claude Van Damme has like a French accent, so they got this young kid in like Giants, like San Francisco Giants gear, and he's like, "Hey, I want to train under you. Why don't you teach me?" It's like it's funny. It's
so
really
silly.
funny. Okay. So now I want to get into the really wild stuff that was just like the biggest rabbit hole in reading about this movie. So at the end of the movie, it ends the opening, or sorry, the first thing that you get in the credits at the end of this movie is that the movie was based on real life events of this guy's life, Frank Dukes. And it states that from 1975 to 1980, Frank Dukes fought 329 matches and retired undefeated as the world heavyweight full contact kumite champion, and still holds 4 world records for fastest knockout in 3.2 seconds, fastest punch with a knockout in 0.42 seconds, fastest kick with a knockout at 72 miles per hour, and most consecutive knockouts in a single tournament at 56 knockouts. And that he also founded the first American ninjutsu system called Dukes Ryu. Okay. So I read all that and was like, you're meaning to tell me that this whole movie was based on a real life thing? Like this guy went to a kumite, which was apparently a real thing, and like went and won and was like the first Westerner to win the thing, and has like all these crazy records, and started an American ninjutsu system. I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. So I started reading into it, and the whole like most consecutive knockouts in a single tournament being 56, like that really stood out, right? And that the reason why it's like so many knockouts in one tournament is because he stated that the kumite had 60 rounds of a single elimination tournament, and it took place in 1975 when he would have been 19, and it took place in the Bahamas, and it was only held every 5 years. And he also stated that he was the first person to be allowed to speak publicly about the existence of the event. And he also stated that he learned how to become a ninja in Japan by Senzo Tanaka when he was a teenager. And when he was in the military from 1975 to 1981, he said that the director of the CIA would arrange to meet him in a restroom where he would assign him on covert missions in Southeast Asia, which included destroying a fuel depot in Nicaragua and a chemical weapons plant in Iraq. And he was also awarded the Medal of Honor. But it doesn't end there. He also stated that he didn't have the sword that he won from the Kumite anymore because he sold it in a failed attempt to buy the freedom of a boat of orphans who he later rescued from a group of pirates. So is that starting to sound fishy to you?
That sounds wild. That's crazy.
Okay, so do you think that's all true?
No.
Okay, good. So it is widely considered that everything that this man has claimed is absolute fiction. So people dug up, Frank Dukes is a real guy. Mm-hmm. People dug up, he was the fight coordinator for this movie. And it's like based on his life. So people dug up his military records via the Freedom of Information Act and found that he never even served overseas. He did serve in the military, but he never served overseas. He never even left San Diego. And he never received the Medal of Honor either. Apparently, the trophy he kept that he claimed he won from the Kumite was actually bought from a trophy store in the San Fernando Valley. And he had gotten a small group of what happened. He got a small group of people to essentially verify his story, and say that all this stuff happened, and that I was at the Kumite, I saw it all happen. But in reality, he just told them what to say, and it's just widely considered that he pretty much lied his way into Hollywood so that he could promote his martial arts schools. And the makers of the movie just took him at his word at the time. And now it's been immortalized in the credits of this movie, and so many people are going to watch this movie and think it's all true.
I kind of love that, though. It makes the movie better. I'm like, oh, now this movie's phenomenal. Yeah. Now that I have this information.
So, the most insane thing of all the crazy things that I just stated, the one thing that is the most that has to absolutely not be true. I mean, the sword and the orphans and the pirates, that's obviously absurd, but it's more likely to be true than him stating the 56 knockouts from the Kumite being a 60-round single elimination tournament. That's where the whole story falls apart, because if you think about it, a 4-round single elimination tournament would consist of 16 people. That's 16 people fight. That's 8 matches, then down to 8 people, then down to 4 people, then down to 2 people. Mm-hmm. That's 4 rounds, right? Mm-hmm. So that's 2 to the power of 4. So if this tournament that he participated in was a 60-round tournament,
there'd be way more people eliminated before he even got a chance to fight them.
Well, no. Well, it would be it's you fight one person, you lose your fight, and then you're out of the tournament, right?
Right.
So, so if it's a 60-round tournament, as in 60 rounds of a 4-round tournament, as I said, was eight fights in the first round, 4 fights in the second round, 2 fights in the third round, 1 fight in the last round. That's 4 rounds, right? More than 4 fights, right?
Right.
So he claims it's a 60-round tournament. That would be, enough people at 60, then cut it in half, 59, cut it in half, 58. So if you do the math, if it was a 60-round tournament, single elimination, that's 2 to the power of 60. That would mean that 1.15 quintillion people participated in the Kumite. Which
I was gonna say 60 rounds sounds like a lot.
That's an insane number.
That's why when you said it, I was like, okay, 60 fights. No wonder it fell apart, because it's he wouldn't be challenging for 57 people.
Right. It could have been 64 64 people in the tournament, you know, that would, but 64 people would be a 6-round tournament.
Yeah.
So for it to be a 60-round tournament is like more people than there have ever existed. Which is like so wild. So, all right, reading further into it, because like it's just a never-ending rabbit hole on this guy. So in fact, he was actually, it was found in his military records that he was referred for a psychiatric evaluation in 1978 while he was in the military for expressing, quote, flighty and disconnected ideas. So in reality, when you look at the big picture, it's, you know, he's like a confidence man with unchecked mental health issues going on, who has an affinity for martial arts. Like apparently he does actually know martial arts, like he studied martial arts. That point is true, but just not at all in the way that he claimed. Yeah. And you could kind of say, like, it reminds me of Steven Seagal. You know Steven Seagal? Oh my gosh. That? This is like the third time we've talked about Steven Seagal, and every time you're like, look at this. He's the guy on Corridor Crew. They recreated a Steven Seagal trailer. Yeah. Because Steven Seagal, he also has an affinity for martial arts, made a bunch of really bad movies in the 90s, is apparently super hard to work with, and he's still making movies to this day, and they're all like super bad and very low effort, and it's like, he just kind of seems like a terrible guy, and who like also probably is kind of like a con man in a sense. But has an affinity for martial arts. So I was reading this and I was like, this is reminding me of Steven Seagal. And then just to like put the cherry on top of the whole story, apparently Frank Dukes had claimed to have stopped a plot to assassinate Steven Seagal. So there you go.
Goodness.
Yep.
Well, I hope he's receiving the help that he needs.
Yeah, I hope. The last thing that I found on him in terms of like public eye stuff was like he did work as fight choreographer for a few movies with Van Damme. After that, they had written a screenplay for a movie. Let's see. I don't have the name. Oh no, I have. They wrote a screenplay together in like 1991 called The Kumite: Enter the New Dragon. And
this is all after they found out that he was lying about everything.
So I don't know the exact timeline of when people found out. I think just people over the course of time just kind of like realized like this guy is not legit in the way that he is saying that he is. But he did, like, he was a fight choreographer for a few movies. Him and Van Damme wrote this script, but then it never ended up getting made. But then Van Damme later ended up doing The Quest, which I mentioned, which was like Tournament in Tibet movie, and Dukes tried to sue him, claiming that the script was basically the script that they had written together that never got made. And so they went to court, and Frank Dukes ended up getting a story credit on The Quest due to a ruling made by the Writers Guild of America, but he ultimately lost that lawsuit because the jury did not really believe him. And they said that like his claims were less than credible, and there was supposedly tapes that would have verified all of this stuff between him and Van Damme about like what was going on with like the making of The Quest or making of the movies, and but he claimed that those tapes were destroyed in the 1994 Northridge earthquake. So yeah, they just like they didn't buy any of it. There was a lawsuit he lost, but he still has this writing credit on The Quest, which I also looked up, and supposedly is not a very good movie. So it's all just very weird. But that's kind of like the last
that is strange.
Heard of Frank Dukes.
Yeah. Well, I hope he's in a better place.
I hope so too. I mean, it sounds like he had martial arts schools, so yeah. Hopefully that took off for him. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Hollywood's
what a weird story.
Yeah. Yeah. Strange.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even have words. I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. No, like I just, because I watched this movie a few weeks ago. I'd seen it like twice before, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I watched it a few weeks ago just because I was in the mood, and then I was like, oh, okay, I'll assign this. But when I watched it a few weeks ago and I saw that end thing where it was like based on true events and all these like facts, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's really interesting. And then we assigned this, and then I started looking into it today, and I'm like, yo, this is nuts. What the heck? Yeah. Why does the rabbit hole go so deep on this?
Yeah, I like wasn't even paying attention enough when that popped up. I was just like, oh, based on true story. Okay, I could see that being the case, but I like wasn't looking at the actual like stats that was like being shown to me. I was just like, eh.
It's not necessarily the stats that are wild, although they are wild. It's the fact that any of this could have happened at all. Like a secret martial arts tournament.
I mean, you don't believe
with that many people. Well, so I was reading up on what some people have thought about that as well. And they were like, there's just no way that if that many people had gotten together for a secret martial arts tournament, that it would have stayed a secret. Yeah.
I don't know. I believe you could.
Well, certainly not a 60-round tournament with 1.15 quintillion people participating.
That's impossible. But I could see some underground stuff. I mean, there's underground stuff going on right now that we just have no clue about.
That's true. I mean, there's underground fighting tournaments for sure.
Yeah.
But like one where like all the best fighters in the world are getting together, that's like some Illuminati stuff. I don't know.
I think it can happen.
All right.
That's my take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is everything I had on this movie. I will probably watch this again multiple times in my lifetime. It is a fun movie.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, and now that I know all this stuff, it's like, what? Wow.
Yeah, I want to know what Jean-Claude Van Damme's skincare routine is, because that man had some flawless skin.
He did. He's since aged up.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him because I was like, I pulled up a summary just to make sure that I wasn't like truly forgetting anything crazy that might have happened. And I saw a picture of him like when it was like cast. I was like, he's old.
He is old now. Yeah.
But back then he had some amazing skin.
Yeah. I mean, this movie was made like 35 years ago. So, I mean, yeah. But I mean, he looked great back then. My goodness. He I don't know if this is true from listening to a podcast that I also listened to that was talking about Van Damme recently. They said that he had a contractual obligation to always show his butt in the movie that he's in. And, there is a butt shot in this movie. And you just look like he is built.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
This is also kind of wild. I did read that when he like showed up to... Like when Frank Dukes first saw him, he was like, "Oh, he's not nearly like built enough." Even though like Van Damme is like a martial arts world champion, he's like, "Oh, he's not like built enough." So they went on like a 3-month regimen together, and Van Damme said it was like the most intense training he's ever done in his life.
Oh my gosh!
But like you look at him in this movie, and you're like, that man is like, it's like picture perfect everything, and for him to be doing like all these kicks and like the splits, like yeah, you could not want more out of like physical capabilities than Van Damme in this movie. That's how I feel. I'm like, if somebody told me like you could have any body in the world, like any body, physical body in the world, I would be like, for like say it's like a video game or something, I don't know, I'd be like, yeah, Van Damme and Bloodsport, done.
Wow.
And I want to be able to do spinning back kicks. Because, like, who wouldn't want to be able to do that? I'm sure lots of people, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Cool.
And now I need to do a bunch more talking.
Yeah.
I'm, a lot of talking for me today. Okay.
Is that your summary?
Okay, babe, you say that every week, every time you see my summary, and we always get through it. So I'm going to take a swig of water, and I'm going to read my notes.
Goodness.
Fill the space, please.
I have nothing to say. I'm so out of it.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I was assigned this week a movie called Wild Hogs. And if you don't know Wild Hogs, it was made in 2007, and it is the dumbest movie I've ever seen in my life. And you probably remember it too as a dumb movie that you probably didn't see, and you'd be correct about all of it.
Well, I think I may shock you.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into it. That doesn't necessarily mean I disliked this experience. I will just say it's a dumb movie. So Wild Hogs, came out in 2007. It stars Tim Allen, John Travolta, Martin Lawrence, and William H. Macy. So they're 4 middle-aged men who like to ride their motorcycles together and call themselves the Wild Hogs and eat at their favorite local joint in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Tim Allen's character, I don't have any of their names. I'm just gonna call them by their actor names. Mm-hmm. So Tim Allen's character is a dentist. He has a wife and son, but his son thinks he's super lame. Excuse me. John Travolta, I think, is he a lawyer in this movie?
I don't know.
Okay, he's a guy that has clients that makes money.
Yeah.
So I think he's a lawyer. And he has a supermodel wife and a nice house, but he's actually super broke and has lost all of his clients, and his wife is divorcing him. Martin Lawrence has a wife and daughter, and he's taken a year off from working as a plumber to write a how-to book, and his wife wears the pants in the relationship, and he is very scared of her. William H. Macy is a computer developer who is single and doesn't know how to talk to women. He's also a total danger to himself because he is nonstop finding ways to put himself in harm's way, and literally every time they are on a bike, he will fall off or crash, or his bike will get destroyed. It happens multiple times throughout the movie, and he's a menace and should be taken off the road.
Yeah, I don't know why they let him continue.
So John Travolta's character, having no money, says that they should all go out on a road trip and discover themselves and take the open road head on, because that's what owning a motorcycle is all about. And so they all decide they're going to go on this trip to California. Well, they go, and wouldn't you know it, hijinks ensue. My favorite thing to say on this podcast, as you pointed out, because every movie you assign is full of hijinks.
Yep.
So there's one part where they're camping out in the forest and they accidentally light their tent on fire with a s'more. So they end up sleeping out in the open and are found the next morning by a police officer played by John C. McGinley, who then continues to pop up multiple times throughout the movie, just hitting on them the whole time and wanting to join their group and hang out with them. It's really weird. And then there's another part where they're all swimming in some water and decide to do some skinny dipping, and then a family shows up. And the family realizes they're all naked, and they're like, "Ugh, what's wrong with you people?" But then John C. McGinley pops up, and he's naked, and he's like, "Hey guys, let's hang out." And they're like, "Oh, let's get out of here." And there's a very family-friendly movie score playing throughout the whole thing, but they're making a lot of mature, insensitive, and references, just very kind of, not, I wouldn't say raunchy necessarily, but just very non-family friendly remarks throughout the movie, despite the overall family friendly feel of it. It's it's jarring.
I have things to say about that as well.
Okay. So eventually they stop at a biker bar / gas station, and the local bikers are all there. And they're called the Del Fuegos, and
it's thunder.
Oh, some thunder outside. So they get to a bar. There's these guys called the Del Fuegos there, and their leader is played by Ray Liotta, who starts harassing them and is like, "Y'all are just a bunch of suburban dads who bought yourself some bikes and some leather outfits and started pretending to be bikers, but we're the real deal. This bar was built by an important biker man. He knew what was up." Which you gotta admit, all of that is true. He had a very spot on analysis of them, honestly. But this results in the bikers basically picking on William H. Macy's character and taking his bike away from him and telling them that they need to get lost and go back to Ohio. So the guys, they ride off. William H. Macy doesn't have his bike anymore. They're going back, and John Travolta's like, are we going to let them do that to us? No, I'm going to go back there, and I'm going to do something about it. And so they just kind of sit there and wait for him to go do something about it. And he goes, and while the Del Fuegos are in the bar, he disconnects the fuel lines on all of their bikes, and then he takes William H. Macy's bike because they left the keys in it. So this was a very, very easy operation for him, honestly. And when he gets back to the guys, he's like, oh, I just talked to them. He like lies about the whole thing. He's like, oh, I just talked to them. I said if they try anything, we'll just sue them super hard. And when I told them that we'd sue them, they just froze up, and I took the bike back. And they all just start touting him like a hero. They're like, wow, you're the best. So then they head back in the direction that they were originally going in. They're like, trip is back on. So when they pass by the Del Fuegos bar, the Del Fuegos are all super confused, and they hop on their bikes to chase them, and they realize that their bikes aren't able to move and are leaking fuel. And then Ray Liotta drops his lit cigarette in his mouth, and it ignites the fuel, which results in the gas station exploding, which I swear to God is one of the most insane in-camera explosions I have ever seen in a movie, because the stuntmen, as this explosion happens, the stuntmen are standing, I kid you not, right next to it. The flames just stop shy of them, which, like, if you watch this and you don't know how movies are made, you're just like, whoa, yeah, explosion, and like that's it. But if you watch this and you know how stunts work, it is insane. You just like, as soon as we looked at it, I was like, that has to be the most unsafe thing I have ever seen. And I'm very curious about if there's any kind of story behind that. But anyway, back to the movie. The guys are riding off. The explosion happens, and conveniently, John Travolta is the only one that even notices that there was an explosion. And he's like, "Oh no, there was an explosion. They're gonna come after us." And so he's all scared about it. So they get to a small town eventually, and they realize that they need gas, but the gas station is closed on the weekend, and the locals are having a big festival. So the guys are like, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, we should just stay." But also, the locals have had trouble with the Del Fuegos in the past, it turns out. So knowing that, John Travolta is obviously concerned, because he's like, the Del Fuegos are going to come find us if we stay here. And everybody else is like, well, we don't even need to worry about the Del Fuegos. They're not going to come find us because, like, John Travolta threatened to sue them, and that was the end of it. So, like, we're good. No worries here. Meanwhile, William H. Macy's character meets Marissa Tomei because she owns a local diner, and she likes him, and they start flirting, and he figures out how to talk to women through her. Eventually, though, two of the Del Fuegos show up to this small town looking for these guys, and Martin Lawrence, thinking he's got immunity from these guys because they threatened a lawsuit on them, just starts harassing these guys, squirting ketchup and mustard in their faces and on their outfits. And that, I swear to God, has to be the dumbest part of the whole movie. Like, that has to be the dumbest scene in the movie. 'Cause it's like, that's like the family image of this movie, like, coming in, where it's like, oh yeah, he's squirting ketchup and mustard on him, got him. And like that's a very like family friendly thing, which is like why it's so weird that they make like a lot of inappropriate jokes throughout this movie. But like, even if you had threatened to sue these guys, if you start squirting a bunch of ketchup and mustard on these guys, like, even other characters in the movie point out like, well, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen, because now he can get sued. Anyway, dumb choice. Shouldn't have done that. Anyway, those guys who were in the Del Fuegos that had that happen to them, they go back to the rest of the Del Fuegos. Then all the Del Fuegos show up to the small town. Essentially, they take the town hostage. The local sheriff is just useless throughout this whole thing. He has no idea what to do. Then John Travolta comes clean to everyone about what really happened, and also comes clean about like being broke and stuff. So eventually there's some fighting between them, and then it all just gets stopped all at once. Because remember that important biker man that built the bar that knew what was up? Well, he shows up to stop the whole thing, and he tells Ray Liotta's character to let it go because being a biker is all about being free or whatever. And I guess he's also Ray Liotta's character's dad. So they just end up dropping the whole thing, and then Tim Allen's wife and kid show up with Martin Lawrence's wife, and everybody's happy. And Marissa Tomei and William H. Macy are now a couple, and yay, the end. And then in the credits of the movie, we see the Extreme Makeover Home Edition guys have now rebuilt the Del Fuego's bar, and all the Del Fuegos are like crying and stuff, and it's like pretending like it's an episode of Extreme Makeover Home Edition. And that was honestly probably the funniest part of the movie. That did tickle me quite a bit. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, overall, as I said, a very dumb movie. And the ending is the most like Deus Ex Machina ending I have. One of the most just like undeserved endings for the characters I've ever seen. Like Deus Ex Machina. Are you familiar with that?
No.
That just means like just through the sheer of like convenience of plot. It's just like something happens that was like not even in the control of the characters, and now the conflict is over and they're fine. It is not considered a good writing device, but here it is, fully on display. And yeah. It's just hijink after hijink, and I really wonder what the writing process was. Who wrote this? How did all the people that are in this movie agree to make it? And yeah, the hijinks just kind of felt like they had to happen along with that movie score that had this like family friendly sound. Like it just sounds like Tim Allen just like called up his guys and was like, "Hey guys, I want to make a biker movie, and then I want my friends to be in it." And that's how this movie got made. All right, now you tell me everything that you want to say.
Did you say how you felt? Like, if you liked it or not?
I mean, I'm not sure if it was on in the background that I would even watch it then. If it was on in the background, I'd give it like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of my time. But I ultimately would I'd probably want to move on to putting my focus elsewhere. I did enjoy, like, it was fun for us to sit and watch it. Like sitting in bed, like, it was silly, and I'm like, this is so wild that this even exists, and they're making all this in like the cognitive dissonance of like the family friendly tone with the completely non-family friendly content was like really something to behold. So like it was really interesting in that regard, and that honestly the explosion was like the most exciting thing for me, because I was like, how in the heck is that in this movie? But like, some parts are kind of funny, but like overall the whole thing makes no sense. It's a very movie, and the ending is like the most pointless, undercut nonsense. It's up there. And yeah, I'm also wondering if the lead actors rode the motorcycles or not, or if there was any green screen.
That's fair. Before I get into facts, I hated it.
Oh, okay.
So I totally understand all the things that you just said. After we watched it, I was like, why did I ever enjoy this movie? Like, what did me and my mom when I was young?
Okay, I thought you were enjoying it the whole time.
Oh, no, I absolutely hated it. I was like, this is dumb. The things they're saying are stupid. It does not hold up well. I was like, this is awful. This is just terrible. This is just garbage. So no, I did not enjoy it.
Okay, good.
Now, you had a lot of questions that I do not have answers to.
I figured.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
The facts on IMDb trivia were like not good facts at all. It was like Martin Lawrence also played in Martin with so and so, or like it was like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is nothing that's like about the movie. It's just like this person was also in this movie with this person, like that type of thing.
Anything? Did you find any like behind the scenes footage or like did the Wikipedia
I did not
have anything?
I didn't check that hard.
Oh, okay.
What I will say though is why I can give you a little bit more about that cognitive dissonance that you're talking about.
Please, absolutely.
But before I do that, so this movie, you were like, so earlier you were like, you probably have never seen this movie. This movie actually did really well the opening weekend. So it was the #1 movie during its opening weekend in the U.S., earning $39.7 million.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah, it came out the same weekend as Zodiac, which I have not seen Zodiac. And
that is a great movie.
It beat Zodiac.
Oh my God.
So people probably have seen this. The budget was $168 million roughly.
Are you kidding?
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Hold the phone. That's an insanely high budget.
I mean, if you think about it, they have motorcycles. Some of them are custom.
Yeah.
You have all these like lead, like these are big names that are in the movie.
Right. Stunts.
Like,
yeah. Big explosion.
So that's going to rack up money. So the budget was $168 million. Gross worldwide made $254 million.
Oh my God. This money made its movie. Or sorry, this movie.
Money made its movie.
This money made this movie.
Yeah.
And they made that money back.
Yep.
What?
So it's actually a bigger movie than you thought. a more popular movie than you thought.
This is so bonkers to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will say I did look at the I did look up the I wanted to see that explosion again, so I looked it up on YouTube, and there was like a bar scene just filmed on like somebody's phone camera on YouTube. And I looked at all the comments, and all the comments on that video, I was hoping that it would be comments on like, oh, this explosion is like really intense. Yeah. No, the comments on that video were just a whole bunch of people that genuinely loved the movie.
Yeah.
Talking about like, oh yeah, like Woody is my favorite character. John Travolta's character, I love this movie.
People love this movie.
What?
People love this movie.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I saw it, I had such good, like, I enjoyed it when I first saw it. And so, like, seeing it now, I was like, what? Like, what? Is this the same movie that I watched before? Like, I was in shock.
I can't.
That's so funny. Okay, so going back to that cognitive dissonance that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So this movie is distributed by Disney.
What?
So this is a Disney movie.
Shut up. No, it's not.
I'm being so serious, babe.
What?
I mean,
okay,
I don't know if you consider it a Disney movie. I don't understand the difference between like the production company versus like,
it was distributed by Disney.
Yeah,
but I don't think like when you look at the movie poster, it's not gonna have Disney on it.
However, yeah, right. But Disney were the people to like push the movie to so Disney had first announced the film. They announced the film.
Okay.
And it had this like tagline for the film that said, a group of middle-aged wannabe bikers look for adventure out on the open road where they soon encounter a chapter of the Hells Angels. So in the original script, the Del Fuegos were supposed to be Hells Angels.
Okay.
Disney got sued.
By the Hells Angels?
By the Hells Angels.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because the Hells Angels did not want like their club to be a part of this like movie. Like,
no,
it's unlicensed. Like, they were like, no. And apparently,
Disney's not coming for the Hells Angels.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah. In addition to that, which is something I did not know, 20th Century Fox owns exclusive rights to use Hells Angels name and logo, but only if it's like a biography. Like,
oh.
So yeah.
Okay.
So that was also another obstacle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that like this weird kind of family friendly, but also like in like mature feeling that you're getting is because Disney played a role in it.
That's so weird.
I don't know if that's true, but like that's where I'm feeling
Tim
like
Allen
it's coming from.
for sure has connections at Disney. He was in Toy Story. He was in Santa Claus. the Santa Claus is a Disney movie. So like I get it. And also like Tim Allen, he did like a sitcom recently that was apparently like pro-Trump. So like it feels like the target demographic for this movie is like middle America or like Hell's Angels and their families.
I think with the casting, I think it can target everyone because like you have Martin Lawrence,
right?
Like an icon, a black icon.
Yeah,
love him. Like you have John Travolta. There's John Travolta fans.
I mean,
I don't know.
Everybody knows and loves some
loves,
version of John Travolta. Yeah.
Right. You have Tim Allen. I feel like that's your middle America.
Yeah.
And then I don't know the other guy's name.
Yeah. William H. Macy.
There we go.
Yeah.
But he's like, everyone loves him.
Yeah. I mean, I would say he went on to have the most successful filmography because he did Shameless after this.
Yeah.
Of all these four guys.
And then Ray Liotta, huge name.
Huge name. Yeah. Ray Liotta. Yeah. I mean, that's the man.
Yeah.
I was so shocked when I saw him in this movie. When we watched this, I was like, Tim Allen thinks he's America's dad. But Tom Hanks is actually America's dad.
Tom Hanks could do no wrong.
It's like Tom Hanks is, it feels to me like they're two sides of the same coin of who is vying for America's dad.
But here's the
thing. For each person, you just flip a coin, and that's...
Because Tim Allen has to try.
He does.
Hanks just is.
It's just natural. Yeah.
He just is. Like
Tim Allen is like... Even... Like, this is a washed-up Tim Allen in this movie, you know? Like, he'd also recently done, like, at that time, he did that Zoom movie, which was him, like, having, like, the Flash superpowers. But it's, like, a Disney movie, and, like, Spencer Breslin was in it. It's a bad movie. It's not... Well, it's bad.
Yeah.
And that was, like, a washed-up Tim Allen in, like, 2006.
Yeah. So, speaking of washed up, because of its popularity, they were thinking about doing a sequel. However, they decided to scrap that because Old Dogs came out in 2009.
Old Dogs.
Is Tim Allen and Robin Williams.
Oh, I remember that. Was there some controversy around that movie?
I don't know, but it tanked so bad that they were like, we're not doing a Wild Hogs 2.
Gotcha. Oof.
It also had John Travolta in that movie.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So no sequel. They considered it, but
oh my gosh,
I guess they were like, Tim Allen ain't it. We gotta restructure.
I mean, I have no idea where he's been other than like this pro-Trump sitcom that he supposedly made.
They just do a recent new.
They just did a Santa Claus show last year. Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't know if it like did the numbers, but
I don't know.
I don't think it was really well rated much either.
I was never a Tim Allen fan. Like he had that show. What was it? Home Improvement.
Yeah, that was his whole thing.
Yeah, and
that was like middle America loved Home Improvement.
Yeah, I was not about it. I was like, what is this?
I never.
This
watched
is not
it.
For me.
Yeah, no, I never watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, no shade to those that enjoyed it, you know.
No.
I'm like, if you enjoy going to the Home Depot, I'm sure Home Improvement is like your favorite show in the 90s. That totally makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, good for them. Smart idea for a movie show.
Yeah.
For
a movie show.
For a show.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, the last fact I have, like I said, I didn't find too many facts. I probably could have dug deeper, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with these facts alone.
Yeah.
I do want to know if Corridor Crew has covered this explosion on a Stuntmen React episode, because
if not, you should submit it.
Absolutely. It's going in the comments.
Yeah. So the last fact, Maggie's Diner was built in Madrid, New Mexico for the film, but the producers were asked to leave the building standing when filming was over, and it's now a gift shop that sells Wild Hog and Del Fuego souvenirs. I don't know if it still does.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't look it up.
All right, for sure. For sure. I can dig it.
Like, that's such a specific reference.
I know.
That's wild. wild.
Like, babe, we got to go to the Wild Hogs gift shop.
Oh, but you know what? I bet my mom would be all about it.
Oh,
my mom would love it.
Yeah.
She would love it.
Oh, man. Oh, this is wild.
Yeah.
The Disney involvement is really like throwing me for a loop right now, because there are some things said that should just not have been said.
Oh, it's very problematic.
Yeah. Ooh. And and there's a lot of like insecurity about homosexuality.
Yes.
Throughout this movie.
Yes.
Which is like also
I hate it.
For 2007. Oh, I guess 2007 is honestly not that much of a surprise, but for Disney to be attached in any way, shape, or form,
yeah,
that is like that is a surprise.
Yeah. That's what watching it again, that's why I hated it so much. It was like all those comments, and it's such like a toxic masculine kind of like,
for sure.
Yeah, and I was just like, ew. Like, ew. It was just gross.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not funny. This is dumb. I will say there's a part where there's like those like state troopers or something.
Yeah.
And one of them's like, you son of a B word. And the way he says it cracks me
that was, you son of a. Yeah.
It's so funny.
That was great.
That's the part where I laugh out loud. I'm like, just the way he said it was just hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bad. It's so bad. I don't want to watch it ever again.
Okay, for sure. Sick.
Glad we're on the same page.
I will say the Extreme Makeover Home Edition part, like that was
really funny.
It was worth watching the movie just to get the comedy of that, because I remember we watched that show like every Sunday night.
It would have you crying
week.
too.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, our house was on fire.
I know.
And then we lost our car, and then we lost our jobs. And you're like, they deserve this house.
Yeah. And in the movie, they're like, the Del Fuego family lost their bar.
Yeah.
Move that bus.
Yes,
and they're like, and they're like, oh my God, they rebuilt it. And like, there's one guy who like, he's got like some homosexual, just comments throughout the movie.
Gay vibes.
Yeah, he's got yeah. Now it's like that was a weird thing, a weird way for me to phrase that. But like, there's a guy in the Del Fuegos that's just kind of like throughout the movie giving off gay vibes, but like not being explicit about being gay.
Yeah. And
then like when they reveal the bar with the bus moving, he's like, oh my God, and like it was just fun. You felt for the Del Fuegos. You felt happy for them.
It's like that part, watching it now is just nostalgic because everyone was watching that show.
Yeah.
And it's like you forget about that. You forget that show existed.
Yeah.
And so like to have the reminder.
Where did it go? Like what?
I don't know.
Yeah. It was like every episode they'd be in their bus.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, all right, guys, this is where we're going. This is what happened to this family. And they would just have a whole breakdown.
I used to be so jealous too, because like especially if they had kids and the kids got these really cool rooms, I'd be like, that's not fair. And I'm like my mom's like, they literally have lost everything. Like, you have a house.
Like, I want the Mario room. I want
right. My mom would have to be like, Aaliyah, you have a house. You're fine. Like, these are people who like need it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I want a room like that.
They'd be like the kid with the glass bones, and he's like, they built railings inside the house for him. It's like
made it more accessible.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, that's great, you know?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Del Fuegos got their bar.
They didn't deserve it.
No, they didn't.
No. But yeah, so glad that we got that over with.
Yeah, never have to think about this ever again.
What a bummer. What a bad pick.
Oh no, it's fine. It's worth it to me for the explosion.
Explosion.
I was like, oh, what a find.
That's so funny. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to move on to the picks?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna let you pick first.
Okay. You already know what I'm gonna pick because I
do
mentioned it.
Oh yeah, that's right. I do.
It. Yes. So season 2 of a phenomenal show called The Bear, if you have not seen it, just recently came out. I'm very excited to watch the second season, and so I just decided to assign you the first season so that you could see it.
Great. I just finished Chernobyl, so I'm like, hey, more quality television, like throw it my way.
It's another stressful one.
I love stressful TV shows.
You do. I do not. But I like this show.
When a movie or show makes me feel stressed, I am like, I'm in it because I like things that make me feel things. I like it when I'm invested to the point where I'm like, like I like feeling uncomfortable while I'm watching something. And that's why like I don't really watch horror movies that much because I can like see right through some of them. So, you know, like Insidious or whatever, I'm like, whatever. The Nun, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, you got the jump scares all figured out. But when there is like a horror movie that comes that can like make me feel something, that feels like a genuinely like special experience. So, or, you know, just if something makes me feel stressed and I'm like, when I care about what's going on with the characters and I'm like able to get emotionally invested to where their stress is now my stress, that's the best.
Oh my gosh, no. I want to go to a piece of content to not think, to like just like clear my mind, get like happiness thrown at me.
I mean, I like happiness too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I am excited for you to watch it. I have a friend who is a trained chef, and I had asked her, I was like, how accurate is this to, you know, your experience? Like, is this just like, you know, amplified? And she was like, no. Like, she's like, that show is triggering for me. And I was like, oh, okay.
So it's like very true of her experience.
At least of her experience.
Yeah.
And it seems like the food industry.
Wow.
It seems pretty accurate.
Well,
so
my dreams of becoming a chef are about to
be
obliterated next week. Catch that next week.
Yeah, I'm Stay tuned. I want no part of the food industry.
Yeah.
No part of it. Oh my gosh, no, I couldn't handle it.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's talk more about that next week.
Yeah.
All right. So, great pick. Looking forward to it. So, because you're assigning me that, I was kind of looking through my list and was like, all right, well, like that's supposed to be of good quality. What's something that I could think of that's of good quality that has to do with like the expertise of somebody being put on display. And there's a documentary, I think it's on Netflix. It's called 14 Peaks. Have you heard of it? So
about climbing.
Yeah, it's a climbing documentary about a team that climbs 14 mountains. And it's great. Yeah. And it's just learning about the story of the team is, I think, not just interesting. I think it's also like important that they get highlighted. So yeah, that's my assignment.
Nice. What's the rock climbing movie we watched?
Free Solo.
I feel like I have heard so many people reference that in like the past few months, and I'm like, oh, I know what that is because of our podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm so in the loop.
Well, we were watching Smartless, the On the Road, which is the Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and that other guy, Sean. What's it? You don't know his last name?
Sean Hayes.
I stand correct. Okay, fine.
He was on Will and Grace.
Okay, gotcha. There was a part when we were watching that where somebody mentioned like climbing documentaries or whatever. Will Arnett was like, "Oh yeah, Free Solo, 14 Peaks. Oh yeah, good stuff." I'm like, okay, that was like, hey, to see 14 Peaks mentioned in the same breath as Free Solo, excellent, love that. I think that honestly was for me where I was like, oh yeah, 14 Peaks. I gotta sign that. So yeah, that's my assignment.
Got you. I've been wanting to give you documentaries, but like waiting for the right time because all the documentaries I like are about like cults.
Cool.
Yeah.
Assign them.
Like, but they're really heavy, so I'm like,
I love that.
Oh my god.
Okay, all right. Whenever you're ready for that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready whenever you. Yeah.
I know. I haven't really given you any. Have I given you any documentaries?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
You gave me Cult Podcast. I think that was the closest we got.
Yeah.
To a documentary. Yeah. All right. Well, next week you can catch the Bear and 14 Peaks.
My memory has been so bad. I never know what I've assigned, and I never know what you've assigned. And I have to ask you all the time, like, what did I assign? What did you assign?
Yeah. All right. What did we even talk about this episode? We talked about Bloodsport just now. You remember that?
Nope.
Yeah, right. All right.
Anyway.
Thank you for joining us for Bloodsport and Wild Hogs. We'll see you next week for the Bear and 14 Peaks. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
And be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye.